Hi everyone, Mattheas here. So we often think about tension and release as mainly a melodic or harmonic device, but it can also be a rhythmic one. Today I'm going to break apart my track 345 and show you some of the ways that I use polyrhythms and metric modulation just to create some tension throughout the track. Let's get into it. So when we think about tension and release, generally what we're thinking of is either harmony or melody. So harmony might be like a G7 going to a C major chord. Or melody might just be... But rhythm can also be a big part of tension release as well. Generally what would happen in classical music is we would start putting things off of the beat. So where a consonant rhythm in classical music would just be on the beat. A dissonant rhythm might be more like this. And then one of the other things that you might hear as well is what's called a hemiola. So we might start off and we have a rhythm that's in 3. And then out of that, we keep the same subdivision, but we start grouping it in 2s. So this is just a couple of the ways that tension and release was used in classical music. Now, once we get into more modern music, a lot of those techniques just start to become a normal thing. Syncopation is just all over the place. Our drum beats are literally built off of backbeats. We have the snare on 2 and 4. So how exactly do we continue to add tension and release to our music rhythmically when a lot of the syncopation and stuff is just a regular part of what we do? There are a couple different things that I was messing around with in my track 345. So the first one was using polyrhythms and then using metric modulation to change the tempo based off of the subdivision of that polyrhythm. We'll show that in just a second. And then I also did use some forms of hemiolas where we're grouping things a little bit differently than everything else is grouped. Well, the first example of the metric modulation that we can show off is just in this beginning section here. You'll hear that this lead here sounds a little bit funky against everything else. The reason for that is because this lead is playing quintuplets against everything else, whereas everything else is grouped in 4. So we have a 5 against 4 polyrhythm. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And then on top of that, in the middle of that, we're also nesting this grouping of 3. So we have this bit of a hemiola going on as well. If I solo that, you'll be tempted to think of it in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One thing to notice here is this transition here. So this entire section is at 80 BPM, but when we go to 100 BPM, this doesn't change. It becomes the new subdivision. And then in this section, it shows the grouping a little bit more clearly. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can see that we have 4 of these. And it's only by the last one over here that we're resolving and we're actually hearing the grouping start on the downbeat where everything else starts too. Because everything else, we have 3 phrases, each 4 bars. But this one here, we have 4 phrases of 3 bars. So essentially what that does is it makes this feel unresolved throughout the entire process because it never lands with anything else. We might have it hitting the downbeat at the same time as something else, but it's not going to happen at the same time as the beginning of a phrase. To bridge into the next section here, we're doing a bit more metric modulation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are going at quintuplets against everything else, but at a slower pace, and it takes a little bit more time for them to get through. And then how do we get out of this section? Again, metric modulation. Now we can hear the grouping of 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. And you'll hear we have just a bit of that rubbing with the rhythm where some things are in 4 and some things are in 5. We have the bass in 5. Da 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 da. The Glock and the crotales are both solidly in 4, whereas just about everything else at this point is in 5, except for this sidechain stuff that's happening in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Standard 4/4 groove here. So in the second section, what we start doing is we start putting things into 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have the kick is in 3 now. And then also this lead is based on 3 as well. And the lead stays in 3 once we get into the next section as well. So we have almost like a 3 against 4 feel going on a bunch of different levels. And now you'll hear that we actually are starting to throw some of these instruments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 into quintuplets. This lead is in 3. This lead is in 4. And then we have the kick in 3. We have the hi-hat in 5s. And then everything switches to 5s during the transition. And these toms just kind of help to bridge the gap a little bit. They kind of show off the new subdivision that we're about to go into. So it's not quite metric modulation, but it's just kind of getting your ears used to what you're about to hear. Now this ending section is almost like the key to the entire song, because what we're doing here, we're playing every single polyrhythm that played throughout the course of the song. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you were able to learn something from it. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those in the comments below. I'll be sure to answer all of those. I'd also love to hear any suggestions that you have for things that I should cover in the future. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like it, share it, and also subscribe. Helps out a lot. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.